Hey, Nikki.
Hey, Salina.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to this week's Extra Sugar. Today, we have set aside some time to talk about the ways in which Sex and the City was groundbreaking, and on the other end, where they missed the mark. It may or may not be named by the end of this from Serious Strides to Dust Bunnies. I don't know. I don't know.
I like it.
Anybody? Oh, good. You do?
I like
Okay.
it. I think
Okay.
it's cute.
Great. Perfect. So, because I just sat there a long time and was like, I don't know. For the record, though, this is not about shaming anyone. This is about acknowledging when shows help pull the culture forward and when shows can remind us how far we've come or how much further we collectively have to go. This is something that we had a lot of opportunities to do with Designing Women. In all fairness, that's because it was an episode by episode breakdown.
Yeah.
We had less of an opportunity with Golden Girls, but we did do that to some extent. And so, but today with Sex in the City, because this is kind of, I'm sure there are things that will come up along the way, but this is our one, like, distilled, focused time to do this. So I wanted to start with the dusty bits, if that's okay. And then let's move on to something that's a little brighter. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Um,
Don't ever talk about your
I
dusty
don't-
bits again.
I didn't say my dusty bits.
That's what I heard.
There's no dusty bits over
what
here
I
at the
heard.
starters. Excuse me. How dare you? But one note is that I'm gonna mention episodes. This is a note for you. I'm gonna mention episodes that aren't on our main list. There is one episode I ask you to watch, but I wasn't gonna ask you to watch like 20 episodes. But if anything that I share intrigues you, we can watch it for our What Did We Miss episode.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with the dusty bits, not my
Your
dusty
dusty
bits, the dusty bits. Number one, the show is super white. So, which I do also recognize that I am white. I'm just going to call it.
You are?
What? So this is probably one of the most common critiques of the show. But for me, what was new was reading how Cynthia Nixon has talked about it. So in a 2025 Grazia interview, she was quoted saying, "It was always very difficult being on a show that was so white. I always hated that." She went on to say that when they tried to raise it, they were told, quote, "This is a Candace Bushnell's world, and it's a very white world." End
Yeah.
quote. To which I recall her answer being something like, "Okay."
Okay.
So there's also fair criticism that when a black character did come on the scene, the writing leaned into negative stereotypes. So I want to give you some, but not too much of a major spoiler. What I will say is that there is an episode, it's season 3, episode 5. This one is often cited. It's called No Ifs, Ands, or Buts, and Samantha dates a black man. And there's a few different reasons that people don't love the portrayals in this episode. So I can
Okay.
share as much or as little as you want.
I think I could probably guess some of the things.
Okay.
So use your best judgment.
Okay. I mean, well, I'm just going to share about Samantha's character choices in this.
Okay.
This was actually what I would cite, which is like, she's having a Julia Stiles and Save the Last Dance moment.
Uh-oh.
If you know, you know.
Uh-oh.
You know?
Yeah, I know.
And it's just some of it, like, even like 20 years ago when I was watching it, I was like, ugh.
Oh, no.
Ugh. Especially since it's like not ever part of her character any other time.
Yeah.
So there's that, but there are other things that happen. But I'm gonna stop there
Okay.
only because if you want to watch it, I don't want to take anything from you.
I'm probably not going to watch that one.
Okay.
That one doesn't sound delightful.
Okay, well then I will go ahead and tell you that there is an angry black woman stereotype in there because the man that she's dating has a sister, and her and the sister basically get in a fight in the middle of a bar or
Oh.
club. So it's not great. Let's see. I think the difference. Well, actually, let me stop there and I also just want to say, if you want to interject at any time, if there's something that you've seen along the way that you think supports this argument, or something that you've seen that's really kind of bothered you that we haven't had time to talk about, just know it's always fair game to pop in.
Thank you.
Okay. I think the difference personally between now and 30 years ago is that this kind of thing isn't just noted or whispered about, because that's what it kind of feels like was happening then. Just based on the quotes from Cynthia Nixon. I think now the advocacy around diversity is full throated. So there's now more intentionality to make sure, whether it's in the writing, the casting, or wherever, to think about representation and to strive to know, like have some. So,
there's some value, though, to the point they made about if they modeled it around Candace Bushnell's world, there's some value to saying just interjecting it for the sake of interjecting it can feel very inauthentic, which I think is something you said happened with And Just Like That. Right. So it has to be done in a thoughtful and intentional way rather than just, hey, here's a Black person. Absolutely. Hey, here's a gay person.
Right. Here's an Asian person.
Any number of pieces of diversity. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And so I thank you for saying that, because I do want to say this is like a lot of these things that you can do to make sure that a show is strongly written, that you have strong actors, that you have diversity. It would be short-sighted, I think, to say that all of those things are easy.
Right.
These are challenging things. I think for me, it's more like just this idea of like, these were quiet conversations. You know what I'm saying? It feels quiet. It feels like, hey, did you guys know that?
Yeah.
And I don't think today that's the way it would play out. I also think as a culture, we're just like really analyzing everything. Like we're on a podcast that you and I are going back and analyzing a 30-year-old show. You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting.
It totally is. And I think technology is also allowing for this, right? This is also how we get ongoing diversity reports, these pulse checks, diversity reports that you and I have thumbed through ourselves and talked about on our show. I'm certainly not saying things are perfect. They're not. We're all still collectively figuring it out in our daily lives as individuals. That plays out on TV, that plays out in the movies, and all of our entertainment is we're like trying to figure out how to be individuals, how to celebrate culture, how to like not rip culture off. Like these are all really like they're sensitive and important areas to think about. So, Dusty bit number 2. Now that I'm saying it over and over again, I really wish I called it something else. But Sex and the City's relationship to the LGBTQIA plus community is complicated. Okay, so this is another common critique, which is that the show was very heterosexually centric. I will also say that we talked about this at a very high level in our season opener, but all 4 women were straight, with the exception of Samantha briefly dating a woman in season 4. Does this pique your interest?
Oh, that is interesting.
Okay. So I don't want to spoil those episodes for you, Nikki, but I think it's fair to say that they were leaning into some lesbian stereotypes. Also, season 2, episode 6, The Cheating Curve. Yeah.
I was just processing. You said that she went through her Julia Stiles Save the Last Dance phase. And I was trying to think what this phase could have been for her. And I can't think of a good comparator.
Oh, well, here's a way to really throw me off my game.
I know. Well, and anything I say is going to be super insensitive. But I just imagine.
You could argue that mine was as well. But I also, you knew exactly what I meant.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? See if you come up with one, let me know.
Will do.
If anybody wants to be insensitive with us, come along.
Just jump on.
We get like somebody's going to analyze our episode and they're like, the dusty bits were Nikki and Salina.
But we knew that first. So
yeah, so except my bits aren't dusty, okay? Also, season 2, episode 6, The Cheating Curve, where Charlotte hangs out with, quote, power lesbians. I'm just going to say it was an arguably ungenerous read of lesbians. That's all.
Okay.
So, anyways, if that one intrigues you, I think it should. It's a funny episode.
Okay.
Stanford and then later Anthony, who you haven't met yet, but he's also going to be on the show quite regularly. He's a friend. He is Charlotte's Stanford.
He's not the one that helped plan the wedding, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you did.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yes, that is Anthony. But this was the portrayal of two gay men who regularly appeared on the show. Retrospectively, there has been much chatter about how both characters were leaning into stereotypes of hyper femininity and quote bitchiness.
Yeah.
Carrie dates someone who is bisexual in season 3, episode 4, boy, girl, boy, girl. The idea of his and others' bisexuality is pretty much dismissed. But Carrie does kiss Alanis Morissette, so that's the thing. Does this interest you?
Maybe.
Okay, you're in charge because I'm talking. So if there's one, you're gonna have to remind me, okay?
Yep.
So that's the Alanis Morissette episode.
I'll be sure
I
to
will
do
remember. Yeah, there's not a ton of episodes where she kisses Alanis Morissette, 2 or 3. Particularly cringy is the treatment of transgender characters. Season 3, episode 10, Sex in Another City. They just really went hard in the paint on stereotypes. I'm just going to stop there. I think it's critical to mention a few things here. The show's creator, Darren Star, as well as showrunner Michael Patrick King, who Nikki has said their name several times now.
Not well.
They are both openly gay, and Cynthia Nixon, who plays Miranda, came out in 2004. I don't think that timing is lost on me, but she was very much involved in Just Like That, behind the scenes. And I really think whether or not they missed the mark, they certainly worked to ensure there was more sexual diversity this time. I'm mentioning this to say, not that the original series or reboot are perfect. They're not. But considering the context of the times when something was created is important. A little TV history reminder: Will and Grace debuted the same year as Sex and the City. That is really the introduction of a lot of Americans to anyone from the LGBT community. So I just think that's an important thing to hold in our minds at the same time. This was still a time, as late as it was, where there may have been appreciation from the community for any representation at all. So it's a little easier, I think, in 2026 when it's again not perfect, but there's more to be like, that's maybe not the best every time. I think the oversights were easier then, and then also, I know I paused to ask myself in preparing for this episode, how ready was 1998 for, say, a female lead to also be gay?
Yeah.
In the reboot.
Yeah.
Probably not, Yeah. So I don't want to just rocket through this, though, if you have anything else to add. But there's no pressure.
Every time you stop and invite me, I feel pressure.
I know. It's so hard. I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll work up a hand gesture.
Just agree that anytime I have something to say, I'm going to say it. Okay. There you go. Rocket ahead, Salina. Rocket like you shooting star that you are.
Oh, my God. So Dusty Bit number 3, and this will be our final Dusty Bit.
Thank goodness. Too many.
Don't worry. I'm going to get you a sweater. This is
Dusty Bits.
Right across the chest. So the socioeconomics favored the wealthy. This show was largely centered around the upper class, or in the cases of characters like Big, the extremely wealthy. So in the pilot, he was described as the next Donald Trump. Miranda was it never settles well. Miranda was a high power attorney. Samantha had her own successful PR business. Charlotte was a gallery curator and later thrived on a nice divorce settlement. Carrie, the one with money problems, discovers that she has $40,000 worth of shoes. People who truly have money problems do not have $40,000 worth of shoes. They never were able to get to $40,000. I just want to say that. You know what I'm saying?
No, in A Woman's Right to Shoes, I was floored when she said her shoes were $425. I was like, hold on. By this point, we've had the money troubles.
And I haven't even looked to see what those cost now.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's more. That's just like one sack of groceries now.
Right. Those are my bananas.
Yeah, get on that Google search, will you? I should have looked that up. But
So
this is,
unlike you.
I know, but this is like kind of a run of the mill criticism for many shows. Friends, of course, is always the classic example. But to borrow from a Southernism here, season 2, episode 10, the caste system is the one that tends to get stuck in everyone's craw. As the name so gently hints, everyone is facing some sort of tension due to their unaligned social status with someone else. So Big is in a higher socioeconomic status than Carrie, Miranda in a higher one than Steve. And while the show pokes fun at the eccentricities of Upper East Side elites who have more money than sense, it also has one of the worst Asian stereotypes that I've seen. First, in stereotyping a housekeeper who they actually call, I think, a servant, and later villainizes a woman, that same woman, she's like the housekeeper for a man Samantha is dating. So it does all the things. And it's just a rough one. So did you find out the price of Manolos?
Probably about $1,000. About double.
Yeah, and then think about that. She would only have 40 pairs of shoes and not like 80. That's quick math.
They would have just picked a different brand.
Maybe, or they would have just been like, she has $80,000 worth.
She's $80,000 worth of shoes. That's true.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and move along to some of the shinier moments.
Okay.
Oh, do you have something?
No, I have nothing. I have nothing to contribute. Thank you for calling me out on it. I'm worthless.
You always have something to contribute. You just told me that Manolos are $1,000. I might have been able to afford a 2004 pair, but I'll never be able to afford a 2026 pair.
It's not where I would choose to spend my money. But
yeah,
more power to her if that's where Carrie chooses to spend it.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful segue to where we're probably about to go. Probably.
Maybe.
And you think you don't contribute. Get out of here. So let's talk again. Like, how was this show ahead of its time? And we already have to some extent, which you can find in our season opener and also in the Extra Sugar, because a lot of that pop culture footprint was really about this, like, pulling the culture forward. I've selected then, because I'm trying to not put us in a position where we're talking about, I'm like, did y'all know it's about sex? You know, like we get it. So I've selected 3 areas where I think Sex and the City wasn't only progressive, it was groundbreaking storytelling that gave women dimension that we'd really not seen on TV before. So the first bucket, some listeners may recognize, is the name of a beloved episode that Nikki so kindly watched, season 6, episode 9, A Woman's Right to Shoes. The second category is A Woman's Right to Choose. And then the third category is A Woman's Right to the Blues. Okay. So, A Woman's Right. Thank you so much. I came up with 2 out of the 3, except not really the second one either. I think someone else came with that slogan. That's okay. So, Nikki, A Woman's Right to Shoes. This episode is in our Carrie batch, of course, so we'll get to talk about that more then. Thank you so much for watching it.
You're welcome.
Just as a really quick reminder for anyone who hasn't seen it, it might appear to be an episode about a pair of shoes gone missing, but this is actually a witty look at how women's choices are valued. Carrie goes to a baby shower where her friend Kyra asks guests to remove their shoes before entering her home, and then Carrie's expensive Manolo Blahniks are stolen. And when Carrie asks Kyra to replace them, she dismisses the request, implying that spending that much on shoes is frivolous, especially compared to real life expenses like marriage and children. And now this sends Carrie into an existential spiral about how society celebrates and financially supports traditional milestones, weddings, babies, houses, while single women's choices and investments are often mocked or ignored. I want to say that not having children also gives you that time to have an existential breakdown. I should know, because I do not have children, and that affords me the opportunity to have many existential breakdowns that Nikki then gets to hear about.
You're gonna solve all of life's problems at some point. I'm relying on you.
Just thought that I would share that also reality in this diatribe, okay?
Fair enough.
But then she does realize that she spent thousands of dollars over the years celebrating her friends' life choices with little acknowledgement of her own. And so in a bold symbolic move, Carrie registers at a shoe store, invites Kyra to celebrate her decisions to remain single. So confronted with the imbalance, Kyra ultimately replaces the shoes, validating Carrie's right to define her own priorities. So why the episode matters. It's a sharp, relatable critique of how women's lives are measured and a declaration that independence, pleasure, and self-definition, even in the form of shoes, are worthy of respect. So just going to throw that out there. So we have like a baseline understanding, a baseline and very detailed understanding.
Very detailed.
Of why that episode is so important and not just about some
operating theory. Kyra stole the shoes.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know why she didn't finally just, I think Kyra really wanted those shoes and she was pissed she couldn't afford them. So she just stole them and then gaslit Carrie.
That is also a famous guest star, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Anyways.
We'll
return to it later.
Oh, okay.
I guess, yeah, we are, because I think maybe we should leave some of them on the table. Let's see if I remember when we get to the end. I won't. So, anywhoosie, thank you again for watching it. This is not a very rewatchable episode for me, I will say. But I do remember that it really hit home for me back in the day. Because this is like right as those traditional milestones were starting to happen among like my early bloomer friends. And so I was single. I didn't know if I would get married or do anything traditional. And I remember just really appreciating the argument that was presented in the episode. I have a lot of friends who have chosen to not marry and not have children, not do what's quote unquote expected. And you don't get a party. And we've had that conversation before. You don't. That's not really in the offing for you. And so I think an episode like this was singular then and still singular today. So because we focus on women's stories, I will also say that I think this weight of having to hit these specific set of mile markers, they weigh heavier on women. I'm just going to share my own personal story, which is, I'm half traditional, I guess, because I had a wedding, but I don't have children. And there were many celebrations for that wedding. Nikki was forced to go to a few.
Not forced. I love a wedding. I love a wedding.
I think our work shower was forced.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
But, we chose not to have children. What I can tell you is that no one ever looked at Casey at a family gathering and questioned why he didn't. And so but they did me, that honor always fell to me. And so I just think, again, that's what I mean when I say it carries a different weight. And you just sort of notice it. I'm like, damn, ask him. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Stop asking me. I'm not the blockade here. This was a group decision. So, this isn't to say that you don't deserve those things. If you do hit every cultural milestone, you absolutely do. Marriage is hard. Parenting is hard. I celebrate every brave soul who takes it on, including the amazing and beautiful woman who is sitting right here before me.
Who's over there? Who do you have in that room with you?
See what I deal with? That's just not easy to get a compliment. Just so Miranda.
All right. Miranda.
What this episode did is give voice to a very large group of people who deserve to feel seen and celebrated too. Because everyone deserves to feel special. Except for a couple people I can think of.
Some people don't.
Some people
don't. But the people we like deserve to feel special. It's true.
So I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just pausing to see if there's anything that hit you as you watch this episode.
I think it's so funny how your perspective can change the way an episode hits for you. I totally got the point of the episode. I totally understood it. I was totally on board. I will say it was super annoying how much they villainized children and people with children in multiple ways. Like Samantha acting like children just deserve no place in any proper society. And I was just like, come on.
She came off like an a-hole, right?
It was pretty rough. That was pretty bad. The person with the kids, Kyra or whatever, she came off like an a-hole too. And I was just like, why is everybody so horrible and unlikable? But they needed that tension to make that. But it was, as someone with children, it hits some sort of insecurity of mine where I'm like, kids deserve to live in the world too. They didn't choose this.
Yeah. Well, depending on your spiritual belief.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yes, and that's why I wanted your perspective, because I do think you come to the table with a very important perspective, and you have wonderful children who are very well behaved and don't go smear their cake hands all over everything.
They don't. They don't, or else they have to
So
clean it up. Thank you for saying that and acknowledging the parenting that goes into that. But I mean, I think the tension was real, and I liked the way that they approached Carrie's little existential crisis. Like, it felt relatable. Like, there were times she was questioning herself. Like, am I wrong in all this? I loved watching her get so empowered by the end. Her conversation with Charlotte, where she was like, "But don't we deserve good stuff?" And I was like, "Yes. Yes, you do." But that was also where we saw Miranda being like the best friend of all, who was just like, yeah, that lady was terrible to you and she's an a-hole and you deserve better.
I just think too, like, talking about like the weight of something, when you've seen someone in real life that you really love have that same realization, like that I never get a celebration, which I've had several times. Like, you see it. You see that it's like, not like they've not been imprisoned, for 20 years, but there's a little pain behind the eyes.
There's a little pain behind the eyes. There is. It's true. But don't invite me to your 42nd birthday party, which is a private island in the Caribbean, and it's going to cost me $50,000 to go.
Yeah, make it a week. Make it worth it.
Let's slow drip the cost.
Yes, I did. I had an annoying 40th birthday. I didn't invite any parents. Does that help?
But then, we've had this conversation. We also get weird about being left out.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I told, like, my parent friends who I know were very interested in that trip. They just promised that I would redo it when they are not actively parenting.
Yeah, we'll be fun again. And I was doing the math the other day. I think it's like 12 years. I'll be fun again.
And I said, great. You don't twist my arm.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go back to Croatia. Sure. I'm here for it. So, but yeah, and I think it's just, I don't know. I think this is like a really, like, tension is such a good word. And like, I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, and I don't remember how it came up, and it doesn't really matter. But just the idea of, like, you're friends with kids and you're friends without kids, it becomes a split because it is two different kinds of lives. So I think we have to make room for each other.
For sure. And that's what I love the most about, I think it was Carrie's, like,
Me?
and just like that.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Absolutely. Carrie's, like, and just like that summary of everything was just like, make room for everybody. And also make room for the insecurity that inevitably crops up on both sides of it. Like, there are definitely times as a parent where, like, I think Miranda said she's bitter because she hates her own life choices or whatever. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way, but there are definitely times where I'm like, God, like, her whole situation's so relatable, like being stuck home with sick kids while other people are enjoying skiing in the Alps or whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, it must be nice. But it's my own insecurity coming out. But that's a real feeling. And it's real. It's going to be real for Carrie at some point in her life where, I mean, we've seen it multiple times where she's questioning, like, am I making the right choice not getting married? Am I making the right choice doing this or doing that? Like, just make room for people to be insecure sometimes and know that it's not about you. It is about them, but you can maybe be supportive for them.
It's like we always talk about life being a series of trade-offs.
Yes.
So, like, you may not be able to do the exact travel that you want to do, for instance, right now, but I've got 0% chance of someone wiping my butt when I get older.
I'm on a level with you. I think I do too. And I have 2 kids. So there's that.
You don't know what butt wipers they're going to turn into. Should I clip that for their Christmas card?
For their birthday card.
Yeah,
here's to another special year of becoming a successful butt wiper.
The countdown's on, kiddos.
Mom's going to need you.
Love you. Remember all the diapers I changed. Don't worry, I counted. So, yes. Okay, well, any other thoughts, or are you okay for me to go to our next category?
Go to our next category.
Okay. A woman's right to choose. So I thought that this category was such a nice pairing with the Miranda episode from earlier in the week, right? I mean, we talked pretty extensively about that one through the categories that we cover in our main episode. But season 4, episode 11, Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda, for me is like the pinnacle across the series. Maybe like one of the best in TV history about a woman's right to choose. It is a smart juxtaposition of the weight, responsibility, and gift that women experience as child bearers. The show uses 3 of our 4 main characters to give us a taster of what women experience. So just a little table setting here. Charlotte is actively trying to get pregnant and cannot, while Miranda unexpectedly gets pregnant and plans to have an abortion. This causes a huge rift in their relationship, while Carrie re-examines her own abortion 13 years earlier and struggles to tell Aiden, even though 13 years have passed. And when Miranda asks her when she finally got over it, Carrie says, any day now, which is an honest and raw telling of how it can impact women. It doesn't mean it impacts every woman that way, but it can. That is someone's real experience. So meanwhile, Charlotte's storyline is kind of like a reminder, even when a couple wants to have children and they're planning it, actively trying to have them, how much was falling on Charlotte in that episode. So although I think we could have some argument about how into it Trey was.
Yeah.
But he was fine with it as long as it didn't impact his golf game.
Or, yeah. Yeah.
Or anything else.
Anything
Highland
else.
swings
I was
and
gonna
whatnot. Yeah, no shots in the butt, nothing. So I'm not saying every woman's journey looks like Carrie or Charlotte or Miranda's, but I am saying that this episode captures what can be the truth for some, and that is that in this wild and precious life, we are sometimes damned if we do and damned if we don't. You like how I paired something sweet with something terrible?
I know. I'm like, I thought this was the good part.
Well, all of these things together, especially in 2001, though, is what made it ahead of its time. You know, I mean, it was just highly unusual to show all of those things.
Yeah.
Were there ways that you thought this episode was ahead of its time, or maybe not ahead of its time? You know, what struck you?
Well, I don't recall sort of the reclaiming of the abortion narrative by women who have had abortions. I don't recall that happening before, like, I don't know, 2015, 2016, somewhere in the last several years.
Right.
So thinking about the time period in which this came, to get to explore the fact that she had one and doesn't regret it, but doesn't not regret it either, like sort of sees both sides of it. I don't know that we had really talked about that. And certainly I don't feel like it was portrayed as something that can be a good choice for women. So again, like, she didn't regret it because it led her to where she is. And I just don't think that was a narrative that a lot of people were telling at that time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, abortions are bad. Abortions are bad. You'll always regret it because you just want to be a mom. And that wasn't her story.
Well, and it's like, I didn't talk necessarily about Samantha, but like, you know, she's very just like pointed. She's like, I've had 2.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, like, but if there was it was really kind of perfect though, because there wasn't an ounce of judgment. There wasn't like, it's just like, this is part of being, it can be part of being a woman and a trajectory that you choose, because life is also a series of choices. And this is one of those choices that a woman should be allowed to make, no matter what state she lives in or where she lives in the world. Her reasons are none of your business, and so forth and so on. And it captures it in that very like non-stigmatizing way.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Which I thought was really beautiful. And it did make me think about Maude, and what I will say that I don't have an answer for, because I love the end of this episode. Would it have been more progressive if she had gone through with it? I actually don't have an answer. I don't even think the answer matters. I just think that if we're talking about if it, you know, was that ahead of its time for the choice to still be, you know, I mean, was that an easier thing for it not to be an active abortion right then versus them being able to talk about one from 13 years ago? I don't know. But what I do know is that I would have loved to have heard the conversation in the writer's room.
Yeah.
Because I bet you there was a lot of conversation.
I'm sure. I do think, though, the other piece of the conversation is a more practical one, which is if she has a baby, it's a more interesting story. You know what I mean? Like,
I had the same thought.
yeah,
Absolutely.
we get one of these single New York women having a baby now. So this is a whole different avenue to explore.
And it's so funny that you said that because it does wind up creating tension down the road, and it does open up more storyline for Miranda.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually so she winds up having the baby at the end of the fourth season, or fifth season, end of the fourth, and so like she's got 2 seasons with Brady, and that's kind of perfect. You know, because like you don't get into the issue where you have to find a little kid that's a good actor, or
Right.
where it's like too much storyline and you're like, I don't really necessarily want to hear about his potty training. So, you know,
Right.
but it's pretty good. So, all right. Last category, a woman's right to the blues. Again, I would just argue that this show was emotionally ahead of its time. And honestly, I don't know we often get such emotional notes in shows today. I'm not saying it wasn't funny. It was funny a lot, probably more than it was emotional. You know, like you can't just have people sad all the time. I mean, you can.
Otherwise, it's just real life. We don't want to watch TV for that.
It's like being in an office. It's like The Office, but not funny.
But not funny.
Just weird notes by the microwave. You know what I'm saying? So
That's your problem. You use the microwave.
I do not. I sadly just eat peanut butter every day because I just not doing that. But in my examples though, in this category, I really went for episodes that you've seen. So I submit to you 2 examples in season 4, episode 1, The Agony and the Eggs to See. And then also in season 4, episode 8, My Mother Bored Myself, which we talked about in the Miranda episode. The former, of course, is the episode where Carrie turns 35 and is stranded alone at her birthday dinner, leaving her enough time to, you know, have an existential crisis. And then the latter one, of course, is where we see all the ladies contend with Miranda's mom, who unexpectedly passes away. So these are episodes we've examined already in our main episode, so we don't have to like unpack them fully again. But is there anything that comes to mind for you when you think about the emotions of these 2? Did they feel noticeably different than other things that you've seen on TV, or in the way that they played compared to other episodes of Sex and the City?
You know, when I see the emotional, that My Mother Bored Myself was the one that surprised me the most with emotion because it was so heavy. But there was also so much humor around it that it didn't feel incredibly weighty, when in some places I actually felt like it could have felt a little more weighty. And that might be projection of my own personal issues or you know, experience onto it, where I'm like, I don't want to laugh right now about someone losing their mother. Like I want to explore this more.
Right.
The Carrie episode felt heavy in like a super personal way. Like unless you've gone through that like that one birthday that really puts you over the edge, you might not be able to relate to that quite as much. In terms of like how it feels compared to other TV shows, like I'm not sure that for a sitcom sort of format, it doesn't feel that different from other shows. They try to like wrap it up kind of neatly so it's not, you're not just crying, you know, the whole time. But I feel like there was room where it probably could have leaned a bit more into the emotion than it did. I wanted it to, at least in My Mother Bored Myself.
Okay.
I wanted to cry a little bit more in that one.
We
Just
want
a
me to
little.
come poke you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. It is, maybe that's one where they could have extended the episode a little bit.
I think so. I think so. Or maybe, I'm not a big fan of the 2-parters, but maybe there was a way they could have stretched that out a little bit more. Give it some more breathing room. Like you have her finding out her mom died, the funeral, and then the stuff that happens after, like bam, bam, bam. And like that just could have been more space.
Okay, well, that's interesting perspective. I think for me, when I was doing this exercise a little bit, and isn't that nice because I had more time with it and then I ask you on the spot? It's a really sweet.
I panic answered.
It's a really sweet thing.
Give me the
to
real
do to each
answer.
other. So women contend very much still today with these stereotypes of like I'm going to say, quote, erratic crazy woman, who is like so emotional and can't control herself. And I think shows have struggled to show women being emotional well, if at all. I think they've been largely uncomfortable with it.
Oh.
And I did some poking around along with our friends and soon to be overlords on ChatGPT. And together we were able to we were unable to find anything quite as poignant or raw. Like, think Friends, think Seinfeld, if you're going the sitcom route.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. There was just nothing there. I mean, there's a couple of episodes of Friends that'll hit for a second.
Yeah.
You want to talk about not giving it the room to breathe.
Yeah.
You're going through like 12 emotions because they're like, we got 22 minutes and a Hershey's commercial.
Sure.
Move it.
Sure.
Even a more emotional show, like more intimate, like a Gilmore Girls, it didn't do it in quite the same way. It's like more familial than friendship driven. So this is like a little bit different, but these depictions show how deeply women can feel, how challenging it is for some of us to show any emotion at all, and how we all play these different roles around the loss. So it is sort of showing these like different angles of a woman, because not every woman is the same.
Yeah, right. Which is what I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I appreciated about like my motherboard myself. You mentioned it in the main episode. We saw all 4 women and how they deal with grief, and every single one was different.
It's so
Isn't
hard.
it wild? Women are different.
It's so crazy.
So
Don't
wild.
tell anybody. Yeah, I mean, thinking about the Carrie episode, like the emotional piece of like how women react, because yes, it was a crappy birthday, but how women react to the societal message that we carry an expiration date, that our value is in our beauty and our ability to get a man and have a baby. That really takes a toll on someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the kind of thing that like sits in your bones, when you see something like that. And I just think that it is hard, because I think we watched that in our first batch, right? And our whole thing was like I'm trying to teach you like the main message of the show. And she's like, I'm lonely and I miss having a man. And I'm like, damn it, but it's about more. It's not really about the man.
Right.
I mean, it is and it is not. It's like that thing I said. It's like, I don't need a man, but like I'd like can I have one? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but like it is like you could see her, because I think the arc of the rest of the show, wrestling with what is laid on her.
Mm-hmm.
And later in the show, you'll see her do that with children.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting too, which without giving too much away is like this juxtaposition, like, and I went through this. Damn, do I want kids or do they want me to have kids?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all emotional and I don't know whose feelings these are. And that's kind of like a tough place to be. So I find the vulnerability in these, that raw honesty, it was so powerful and so refreshing. So I was just really,
I'll give you that.
Just thank you. But it's just really grateful for that. Really grateful for these. Honestly, all 3 of these areas, where they really were doing something special. And I just want to remind everyone, this show ended in 2004. It's a long time ago. I don't like to think about how long ago it was, but it was. So I will invite anyone who's listening to tell us what you think. Where do you think Sex and the City was most groundbreaking? We want to hear from you. Where did it arguably drop the ball then or become dusty on rewatch? Please feel free to tell us how we're correct in all of our assumptions.
Tell Salina she's right.
Tell us that you love our takes. Nikki loves that. I don't care. You know the drill. DM us, email us, or contact us from the website. Find us all over the socials. Do not ever tell us about your dusty bits. And that's this week's Extra Sugar.